Okay, so welcome to Lauren Tracht, who is a marketing, sales, and branding consultant, and she's based in Barcelona, Spain, and also to Siena Dexter, who is co-founder at Naked Ape, which is a London-based company dedicated to building brands through the power of social science. They're both here with me to discuss marketing and branding of cellular agriculture specifically and cultivated meat. So I'm just going to allow them both to say a little bit about themselves. So, Siena, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Alex. I actually think you've said it all. I am excited to discuss branding and cellular meat. Alternative protein is obviously a hugely growing industry. There's a lot to discuss in terms of social science and changing perceptions. When we founded Naked Ape, our objective was to help brands that have an interesting concept or idea to translate that to audiences to understand how we can reframe behavior and change it through social science and anthropology. So that's really the background to what we do. We work mainly with FMCG, and I'm excited to be here today to discuss all things branding.
Okay, well, thank you, Siena. What is FMCG?
Fast moving consumer goods.
Okay. Right.
In the States, they say CPG over FMCG, so just consumer packaged goods. But in the UK, we say FMCG, which is the lower cost CPG. So rather than say a higher cost item that's packaged.
Okay, thank you for that. Lauren, can we hear about you a little bit, please?
Sure. So I work with a lot of different companies in the alternative protein space. So cellular agriculture companies, plant-based fermentation, different types of fermentation companies. And I see where the company wants to go. And I help them troubleshoot how to really get there, specifically with branding, marketing, sales, different strategic collaborations, business expansion. So I have tons of contacts in the network, in the food space, and with different mass consumer product stores, selling stores. So I try to put all the pieces together of the puzzle and see where the best fits would be and come up with really creative strategies to really get these brands in front of people in a really interesting, exciting way that will also help this innovation really be accepted in a very positive way by consumers. As we all know, innovation is always full of new things and change. And in general, humans, we don't really like change, especially big changes. And there's so many different components in there, specifically fear of just the unknown and something different. So it's so important to just really give reassurance and just really create this amazing energy around a brand.
Yes. Well, this is all stuff that's certainly, the how human behavior is impacting on the way things are marketed is something that I really want to discuss as part of this marketing debate or discussion. So kind of going back to the subject, do you think it's going to be easy? Let's start with a broad question. Do you think it's going to be easy or difficult to sell cultivated meat to members of the broader public? What do you reckon?
I can start. I can kick off.
Yeah, whoever
I'm just going to say I'm going to say no. It's not going to be easy. It's not easy now, and I think thinking about how you're going to be positioning cultivated meat, it's gonna have to be a choice, and we need to understand what that choice is between and why consumers want to make that choice. We need to understand the price point as well. So right now, if you go into a restaurant, if you go to say Byron Burgers or kind of pretty much any kind of burger restaurant, meat restaurants, you'll have a vegetarian option. Sometimes that's Beyond Meat, sometimes that's the branded products, and you would choose, do I want to have the vegetarian option, the meat alternative protein, or do I have meat? If we add cultivated meat to that, then that's a third option. And you need to be thinking, why would anyone make that third option? If it sits in the supermarkets, would it be in the meat section? So would there be a cultivated meat section? And if so, why would you choose that as an alternative? Is it going to be perceived as the cheaper option to real meat, or would it just be a choice of, would you have liked this animal to have been, not have suffered through obviously the farming process and being killed? But it's a bit of it's a jump in people's minds, isn't it? Of, this is a cow. It's still a cow. It's not kind of, but it's been grown in a dish. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be hard. Yeah, I'd love to see
how aware do you think people need to be about, whether that, how that meat has been grown, has been developed? If they're looking at, if they have a choice in the supermarket, and one is cultivated meat, one is, standard meat. I mean, are they going to look at cultivated meat and understand what that is? Do you think? Are they going to know how it's become what it is?
It depends who the consumers are. Let's look at vertical farms. When I was working on a leading vertical farm project in the States, it was one of the first to partner with a major supermarket in the States coming over from Europe. Now they're more well-known vertical farms, and there's a lot in the UK. But then we had to do a lot of consumer testing around, what is the benefit of this lettuce? Is it clean? It's got no soil. So do consumers care that it's not been grown in soil? Is the benefit that it's been grown locally, so there's less transport costs? So you need to start thinking about how that's positioned. Why is cellular important? Why is cultivated meat important? And how do we position that as a benefit? So are we going for making the switch from organic to cultivated and choosing those consumers? Or are we saying, cost of living crisis, meat is an expensive luxury right now, especially good organic meat. So your option is choose cheaper meat that perhaps hasn't led a good life, or choose cultivated meat where you're getting the best for a better price. So we need to think about that positioning.
Yes. I suppose we're hoping that the kind of cost of living crisis might be over by the time we've got cultivated meat on the shelves. I suppose it's going to be 3 years from now, isn't it? So perhaps people will be better off by then.
Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect there's going to be a lot of people who are happy to pay the extra money to buy meat that hasn't suffered. I mean, there was some statistics from Bryant Research, my new sponsor, which said that 60% of people want factory farming to end, which was higher than I thought. And then there was it was between 80 and 90% of people are against certain practices that happen in regular kind of farming, about having the horns cut off and being castrated and all these kind of things that happen in farms. And so there is a lot of people who are against that kind of cruelty. So would that translate into money? I wonder. Would that translate into people spending more money quite happily on happy meat, I suppose?
I think it comes down, honestly, to, in answer to your question, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging, but at the end of the day, everything in life is challenging. So it's just a challenge you have to assume and just fight for it. Definitely the main things that need to be addressed in the alternative protein space, in every single part of the alternative protein space: taste, cost, convenience, and health. No, the first three, fundamental: taste, cost, convenience, super important. So you know, once we get those down, yes, of course, we continue to work on them. Obviously, it's going to take time. But we just really need new innovations, need to be persistent on really coming up with great solutions to those three issues. Because at the end of the day, you can make all the marketing, come up with all these great marketing stories and campaigns and this and that. But if those three pillars are not, they don't have solid solutions to them. Okay, yeah, it's great that people want to reduce animal suffering, but if you don't give people a really great turnkey solution, they're not going to do it. I mean, there's so many things, you know, so many people would love to, you know, be in great shape and work out and eat healthy, but it's challenging. That's why a lot of people don't do it, because you really have to put effort into it. And yeah, so I think that it's so important that we really focus on the marketing, and the branding is very important as well. But if those pillars aren't like bulletproof, I mean, not bulletproof, of course, we're going to need time and constant innovation, but like we really need to focus on great solutions for those, because otherwise it's like a house that has a very feeble foundation, and you're worrying about the curtains you're going to put upstairs in the guest bedroom.
Yes. I read somewhere today, I can't remember exactly where, but it was about one of the big food companies, you know, kind of Cargill or kind of JBS or one of those, that's on lots of their food. They have to kind of dumb down the health benefits of the food because people don't trust it if it's kind of talking too much about health. So on their pizzas, they have to kind of remove them, you know, even though they've kind of cut them down, you know, they've cut down the fat, they've cut down the salts, but they can't mention that on the pizza because it might frighten off consumers, which I thought was interesting. So I've heard some cultivated meat producers tell me that that there are some people, I think it was Magic Valley, the guy Paul Bevan said, some people will just never eat cultivated meat. So you know there are some people you just can't sell it to. So do you agree with this? And if so, who are those people who are never going to eat it?
Gosh, that's quite a big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to give just a flat answer. Are there some people that will never? I'd love to know what that fact is based on. Are we talking about geographical kind of availability? Are we talking about will never be able to afford it because of their economic situation? Or like Lauren said, is it kind of the convenience and it being too harder? Therefore, if it's made kind of tastier, is it tastier, more convenient, healthy? I've written these down. Would we open that to new people? Whereas currently, it's not open to them. So are there some people that would never eat that? There are. And if we look at, do you guys know like disc theory? So I was just kind of rounding it up kind of in a summary. There's a great book it's called Surrounded by Idiots, actually.
I've got it.
You've got it. I actually interviewed the author. I know
I've got
him.
it on
He's
my
a great
shelf, but
guy.
I've never read it. So
Yeah.
I should read it. Oh, you've interviewed the author of it.
I interviewed him. Yeah, it was the middle of COVID and he was bored and he agreed to be interviewed. I need to actually publish that. But I was obsessed with this book. It basically says that people are either yellow, so a combination of yellow, red, blue, and green. Yellow are your early adopters, your kind of the people that are driven by kind of ideas and will adopt things quickly and will try things quickly, but they also ditch things quickly. Red is like, get me to the answer fast, don't give me the details. They're kind of your CEO types, your kind of energy driven people. Whereas blue is like, give me all the information, I'm not making a decision until I've read the whole PC manual. And greens are like, oh, we'll just go with what kind of most people will want. So are there some people that would never try this? I think it depends on where they are on that spectrum. Are they the blues that potentially need all the information, or just resistant to making new decisions? They're just not the type of person that will ever change their habits. They are diehard meat eaters, and that is it. So for me, just psychologically, I think that's how that needs to be answered. But that's kind of my perspective.
It's a good answer, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I shall have to read that book. I mean, I was kind of imagining maybe if you went to a Trump rally, if you went to a Trump rally in America and tried to sell them cultivated meat, how
No.
how do you think that would go down?
I mean, we're saying that people are, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and say probably, well, actually, I've been horribly surprised by how some Trump supporters are actually university educated, and it had surprised me. I was like, how is this happening? You're a lawyer. But I would probably say that they are a certain type of person that perhaps isn't maybe uneducated as a blanket term, but they are part of a certain group of people that has a certain mindset that is probably resistant to seeing certain types of change happening and helping the world to implement it in a certain way. I'd love to know, maybe Lauren can categorize that better, kind of being from the US, hopefully not supporting Trump, otherwise I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think that there are a lot of people right now in general that, especially after COVID, that just are really dying for human connection and to really connect to a community. So, I mean, studies have shown religious affiliations have been going down for many decades. And I think people just want to relate to other people. So I think that's why you see all these tribes popping up, whether it be through social media or politically. So I think, interestingly, people right now can be more, I don't want to say easily swayed, but easily attracted to different communities, to being part of different communities, because we all want to be part of different of a community. People aren't maybe socializing in the same ways that we used to, due to different technology, social media, mobile devices, et cetera, et cetera. So people just really want to be part of something, and they want that human connection, and they might not recognize it, but those are the things that they're drawn to. So if the cause is decent enough, if the argument sounds pretty solid, then it's something easy to buy into. So I think that, people just want to be together. So that's actually a great thing to have in mind when we're talking about marketing and branding. I work on tons of different, I'm a huge proponent of grassroots strategies. So really like tapping into communities and really meaning something to those communities, really bringing people together, having the center be regarding a movement or a product or whatever in a meaningful way, not in like a spammy way. And as far as your question, Alex, I think that definitely, specifically the ones who are going to be harder to convince are older generations, because they have a more set in their ways mentality. They might not understand or really care to understand about new technologies. And also different like religious groups, I would say, as well.
Okay, it's interesting what you said about community, because one of my guests, again, I think it was Paul Bevan, he said that it's about wanting to be part of the cool gang.
Sure.
And if you can make kind of cultivated meat and sell agriculture the cool thing out there to do, then it should be quite easy to persuade people.
Sure, for sure.
Which is what you're tapping into there.
I don't know if I would actually push back on that a little bit, Alex, and say that there are lots of people that will do things just to not be in the main trend group. For example, there's a drink, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong. It's La Croix in a is it La Croix? La Croix.
There's so many different LaCroix.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
We did some research into this for another brand who was launching a bubbly drink, a fizzy drink, and we had to position it in terms of what is the anti La Croix crowd, and that drink was on it was actually on South Park, where they were just making fun of these like people that were going around going bottled water and then kind of like all the things that these Manhattan Apple MacBook users would in the skit. They were going to South Park and they were all drinking this La Croix, so we had to kind of position it as a new drink that is the alternative to this really cheesy mainstream thing that everyone's doing. How are you going to be the anti-culture, the subculture? So actually, potentially, maybe there is a way, and this is not if you're the first cultivated meat product to go to market. If you're talking about there's lots of different options, there's room for one to be the market leader that everyone wants, the La Croix, and there's room for others like kind of Juicy Marbles in the alternative protein space. Have you heard of them? They're pretty cool.
I've interviewed him actually. Yes.
Have you really? They seem so cool. I haven't tried the product yet because I'm still not 100% sure about alternative meat that really looks like meat.
His name's Vladimir, isn't it? Vlad. Yes.
I'm not actually sure. I know it's a team of 2 guys from the States, and they're pretty cool. I love their branding. So I suppose what I'm saying is there is room to be the anti-market leader, the underdog, the buck the system, the rebel. There's room for that to come in. So whether it's everyone wants to follow the tribe and kind of go with what, yes, the green personalities would, but actually there are other people that would actually want to go for the alternative.
Yeah.
So it's complex.
I suppose there's room for both, isn't there? It's like
of course.
you could sell it in a cool way to one sector of society, and then you could put the kind of Tesco's own brand on the other stuff and kind of sell it to everybody else as at a reduced price.
Yeah, this is your budget meat. I mean, if in this cost of living crisis, I suppose you have to make a choice. And I love my Clarence Court eggs, but they have gone up to like £5, and like a pound per egg is a little bit bonkers when it used to be a pound per pack, or £2 for the really lovely ones. So I suppose people will be thinking, how can I have this lovely, especially if they've got a big family to feed, how can I make that choice for cheaper? With nobody knowing that it's actually not real meat.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. So I mean, we've looked at kind of the best marketing techniques for persuading the general public. I mean, is there anything you would want to add to that? I mean, are there any techniques, are there any other techniques in your toolbox that you think would be very good?
Mind control, manipulation. I think that's a super interesting question. I just want to touch on something that's like so just an anecdote that I talk about a lot when we're talking about kind of changing perceptions to new products. When margarine came on the market, there was just butter, and they had to convince in this kind of market research group, because it was the 50s, they brought in housewives and they said, can you try either this butter or this margarine? And they tested what the response was. So the reason why I'm saying that is there was a lot of psychological research that went into how to convince the main target audience at the time to choose this new thing, margarine, which nobody wanted. And it at the time it was gray, it wasn't even yellow. So what are the marketing techniques that we would use, that I think we would use? I think you would need to have a obviously more diverse market research group and test psychologically what are some of the hesitations if you didn't know it was cultivated, if you gave them the 2 things, and if you did tell them it was, what would some of their answers be as to why they disliked it or liked the other option better. So you'd need to really research that and then build your marketing around that.
So is there anybody out there doing that sort of research, that market research?
This specific market research?
Yeah. Has that been started yet?
On cultivated meat, it's not something that I'm aware of currently, that there are any ongoing studies. But again, this isn't an area that I work in currently. We work with alternative protein, but currently, not cultivated meat. Although that would be an exciting area in the future.
Yeah. What about you? Lauren? Is there anything in your toolbox that you would use to try and sell cultivated meat to?
I have so many different tools. It's like darts at the end of the day. You just have to keep being, or it's like going to the gym. You just have to keep being persistent and doing a lot of the same things, and then tweak a few things, and just kind of, you cross that bridge when you get there. But I think definitely, like I was mentioning before, harness the power of communities. People want to be a part of something. People want to feel connected to a group. People want to feel connected to other people. So create meaningful. I mean, there's so many great examples. Like, you have Supreme, you have Lululemon, you have, Sweet Greens in the United States. You have a beauty brand, Glossier. All of these brands really gave such importance to their consumers and to their customer base, and really empowered them, and really helped create this community, and really, made something so disruptive, because they really showed that they cared a lot about their community. So I think, create events, where you have these super cool products, really tasty hamburgers, really innovative stuff, very Instagrammable stuff, very engaging stuff, where people can come interact with your products and have a great time. It's kind of like, I think back, there are like songs that at the beginning, when I heard them, I'm like, I hate this song. And then you go to like a club with your friends and you have such a fun time. You're like, I love this song, because it reminds you of that fun moment with your friends. So I think the environment conditions so much of what our perception is of a product. So we really need to take advantage of that and have amazing events and have amazing interactions with these products, and just together.
Of course, yes. I mean, I think all of that makes a lot of sense, but I suppose that's kind of it's perhaps looking at a younger market, isn't it? It's the kind of Instagram, it's the Instagram crowd.
I wouldn't necessarily say. You could have also like, or Facebook for older adults, however you want to put it. Your moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandmas. They love posting things as well. Or, you could create like I don't want to say like a county fair event, but like a community farmers market event where you have all these different, like a very family oriented kind of event. So I think there's so many different ways you can tap into communities and bring people closer. And really, like I said, add so much value to their lives, not only by free food and interacting with this new food, but taking the importance off, because that's the whole thing. When things are innovative, you kind of want to make it like normalize it. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want them to focus too much on what they're skeptical about, and just focus on having a good time and relaxing and just enjoying themselves and relaxing and just having a great experience.
Yes, I was wondering, I was going to say, just before you said that, I mean, how much in the marketing do you think people need to know about the science of the product, or about the where it comes from, or about factory farming and animal cruelty and all of that stuff? How much of that do you think needs to be part of the brand or part of the marketing?
I think a lot of people really don't care.
I was gonna say the same, actually. I was gonna say, I think it's important to perhaps have that somewhere on the website for the personality types that want to read that. But like Lauren said, I think that if you normalize a product choice and you then create a great community, a great buzz around that, I think that's a great way to just make it the obvious choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I kind of agree that that actually, I wonder whether kind of companies would rather just kind of slip it in quietly, or make a big fanfare about it, you know.
Or just like, I can't believe it's not meat. Like, I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what?
It's all in your fish. It's all in your frozen fish fingers, in your frozen kind of chicken nuggets. It's in your sort of frozen pizzas. No one cares what's in them. If they cared, they wouldn't be eating them in the first place. So if you can you just slip it in without anyone noticing, and
It's a
not
bit dangerous if it backfires, though, isn't it? You could have a huge PR scandal on your hands. I was given a kind of an alternative, well, a protein bar that was made from crickets just on when I was just walking through to my WeWork in Farringdon Station. I was like handed it with like my copy of The Economist that they were handing out for free, and I didn't know. And I just got to my desk and I was like, oh yeah, a free bar, and it was called Jiminy. And it was only after eating half the bar that I realized I was eating crickets, and I was not happy. I really wanted them to tell me that it was a cricket bar I was eating. So I would say, don't trick people. Tell them what it is, but have them go, wow, I can't believe I've figured out this great hack, or I'm part of this great community, or position it differently. But it needs to be their choice. You can't just give them like a 50% meat product and try and trick them into it. I'm not sure that's going to go down well.
I think a big factor as far as that as well is definitely just really creating widespread cultural acceptance and having a culture change. And like I said, it's like, if people start it's kind of like how smoking was. It's like, okay, everyone's doing it. Okay, so I guess it's cool and fine, and I'm going to do it even though I know it's not good, and there are a lot of illnesses related to it. Well, I'm just going to do it. Why? Because everyone's doing it and it's cool, and people like me more, supposedly, that way. So I think that a lot of people are going to be most persuaded by just the social factor, and how they relate to other people, how they connect to other people, virtue signaling, just by being part of something that's really cool and happening and that everyone is doing. And then I think then they're not really going to care, even if they don't really know what it is. Like if it was a protein bar, I mean, a cricket protein bar, I think people would care less if they see all these other people doing it and they're like, well, all these other people are doing it, I guess it's okay. I guess if they're doing it, I guess I can do it. Nothing's going to happen to me.
That's true. I mean, that's how it works. That's certainly how it works in politics, isn't it? You see the politicians regularly on Twitter saying, this is the way everybody is thinking at the moment. This is what everybody's doing at the moment, so that's another way of basically saying this is what you should be doing because everybody's doing it. So
how Trump got in.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's trickery, isn't it, really?
He kind of got in by tricking people into thinking cricket bars are good. Basically, it's like the political version of it. Just get them to eat this. Everyone's doing it.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's a perfect, like, it's you're not actually saying everyone's doing it. That's what someone, like, if you have huge events where people are engaging with this product, it's like, you can decide not to. No one's telling you, oh, everyone's doing it. And but in your mind, you perceive that it's safe because you see people that are having a good time, and you would like to be having a good time and interacting with other people and part of this community. So you perceive it to be safe.
Yes.
This is such an interesting, oh, sorry, Alex, I was just gonna say, like, my mind's just going on it. This is such an interesting kind of observation, because there are so many occurrences in society where enough of a kind of viral idea has landed and then everyone's doing it, and you associate that kind of action with having a good time, whether you're talking about alcohol-free beer, whether you're talking about smoking, or not even things that are bad for you. If we even talk about like fashions, wearing high heels, you know, who invented those? Why are we doing them? Why do I feel like I need to wear them in order to feel like a professional business person? Apart from being short. So this is, I mean, I could talk about this until the cows come home, but I won't. So it's interesting.
I suppose the idea, you know, that's, you know, the kind of cultivated meat and cellular agriculture is often associated with vegetarianism and veganism. And I suppose veganism and vegetarianism has never been thought of by the large sector of society as being the fun people, perhaps. You know, they are, you know, I suppose people think of them as the people who are complaining and causing trouble and kind
of vegans never
ruining everybody's day. So perhaps as part of the marketing, you know, kind of you know, sort of cell agriculture should you know, be as far away from being associated with veganism, because clearly veganism, you know, vegans are not interested in cultivated meat anyway. It's not for them. But I think people might associate it with veganism and vegetarianism. So how would you market away from that?
There are a few points here. First of all, I would disagree that vegans and vegetarians aren't seen as kind of the cool people now, or kind of fun. I think that actually there's been such a huge shift recently in how people are perceiving or judging people who are saying that they're vegan or making flexitarian options, vegetarian options. When I was growing up, being vegetarian was kind of it's like, why are you doing that? Like, what, you know, you could never say, oh, I don't eat meat without someone questioning that and going, but why? I'm just like, well, I just really just don't like the idea of eating a chicken. Like, I'm not actually vegetarian anymore, but I think that it's a complex thing. And I just wanted to touch on the fact that it's for vegetarians, or that cultivated meat is for vegetarians. There are a lot of vegetarians that would not make that choice to not eat meat, not because it doesn't always come from just an ethical point of view. Sometimes it does just come from they don't like the texture or the idea. So therefore, a product that has come in some way from an animal, and is not going to be appealing to them. So the only option is for it to be an alternative to farmed meat, whether it's more cost effective, better for you, healthier. You can track that it's not going to make you sick. You can track it's not kind of come from some farm and you don't know what's happened to it. So that's the only way I think that it would be marketed. I don't think it's for vegetarians and vegans. No, I wouldn't say that.
No, I don't think it is.
I mean, I think economically also it's just not a good strategy, because vegans and vegetarians are just such a small niche of the food market. As far as marketing goes, I don't think that it's really doing the cultivated meat sector justice. I think the whole point of really making it economically sustainable option, and also better for the environment, et cetera, food stability and whatnot, is to really just target flexitarians, or not even flexitarians, just different demographics that, or even just like you know, poor communities. I mean, hopefully when the day comes where we can reach price parity or even lower price points because of, you know, scalability and a lot of other issues solved, and hopefully government subsidies. And also, you know, another important thing is lowering subsidies for animal husbandry. You know, I think this is such a great option I don't think that meat should stop existing. I believe in great farms. I mean, I'm as far as my career, I'm also a veterinarian, so I've seen what goes on in a lot of different types of farms, and there are farms that are doing a great job. So I think there's always going to be room in the market for those types of farms, grass-fed, free range. You know, there great farms with animal welfare. It's being done fantastically. But I definitely think like there are huge groups of people that just want a product, you know, and if they don't, a lot of people don't have enough disposable income to really care as much about a lot of other specs of the product. So if we're able to come up with a very cost efficient alternative to this, hopefully in the future, commodity that will be meat that is, you know, not as easily attainable as cultivated meat, I think it's a great solution for developing countries and also for you know, lower economic people.
I've just come up with a strap line that I think might be good. You know, kind of tell me what you think of it. So if you've got, it's kind of cultivated beef, not for vegans. How does that sound?
I would need to look at the kind of target demographic and do some social listening and the research, and then to understand whether this positioning platform is going to resonate with them, and also understand how it's going to look and feel as well in terms of the brand and the product. But is it a bad tagline? No. I think it's an interesting one. It's not for vegans. I'd immediately go to why.
Well, I
Because it's
mean,
meat.
it's kind of one of those things. I suppose it's kind of what we were talking about is that as soon as you write vegan on a product, it tends to scare most people off. I mean, and they've done, you know, I've spoken to people who've sort of said this. I think the kind of Juicy Marble guy, Vlad, was talking about this as well. And he was saying if you write vegan, vegetarian on it, you know, kind of most people, most normal people will run a mile thinking, I don't want to be associated with vegans. I know that there are, you know, you were saying that there is a big crowd of people, you know, kind of veganism is cooler than it used to be. You know, it's growing in numbers, and kind of flexitarians are growing in numbers, but probably only in the cities, probably only in London and New York and places like that. But in the world more widely, I think there is still a sense that people don't want to buy something that's got vegetarian written on it or vegan written on it. So I suppose that's why I was saying that.
It's interesting. I mean, do you remember the Yorkie bars, not for girls?
Yes.
It's kind of like, I don't think they go with that anymore as a campaign. I think in our times it would be unthinkable that a chocolate bar would come out and say not for girls. But I suppose that was kind of interesting because, you know, obviously it is for girls if they want it, but they were using the term girl as a certain idea of what the kind of person, so it was just incredibly sexist, first of all. But if you're saying it's not for vegans, I think it's interesting, but you are actually saying it really isn't for vegans. Well, so perhaps if we found a way of saying it's not for, and then positioning it's not for boring people, or no, I'm not saying vegans are boring, but if you say it's not for, and then find a term for someone who would not, or it's not for people that don't want change, something like that, I would say it's an interesting concept to go for that.
I see what you're saying. You know, vegans is you know, it could create division in some way.
Yeah, I think the topic, I mean, I think it's just so politicized that it's best to just stay away from. It's kind of like poking at a wound. It's like, I think your best bet is just to really try to enforce new ideas and new branding marketing points that haven't been politicized, and that, I mean, I don't want to say are a bit more objective. I mean, objective, but like, for example, one huge benefit I see is that, okay, I'm a flexitarian. So a lot of times I'll get some meat or chicken or whatnot, and it's quite tough, you know, and it's not consistently like tender. So personally, I think that's a huge advantage, that it's like guaranteed tender all the time. Like, that's fantastic. So or guaranteed
like marbles, I suppose, having juicy in the in the brand title.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, maybe some people don't know about marbling, but the fat infiltrated into the meat. So that's you know, only as far as animal husbandry goes, you know, it's a whole science in itself to get marbling into the meat. So I mean, yeah, that's a subliminal message, but especially as far as not just taglines, but really marketing campaigns, I think really focusing on the benefits of this product versus conventional meat, and not focus on politicized issues, not in focusing on the environment. There's so many benefits. We can add different omega fatty acids into these products. We can add so many different nutrients. We can enrich these nutrients. So we just need to make this product like better than what already exists, and focus on that.
Yes, I think that's also interesting, and I've often thought, you know, because of the cultivated meat and the, you know, the scope of what they can do, you know, they are trying to make kind of cultivated meat as good as meat. Couldn't they make it even better than meat?
Sure.
So if that's within their ability.
Better than meat.
Better than meat.
Sure.
There we go.
There we
There's
go.
the tagline.
Write it down. Yes.
Done. We're
Okay,
trademarking that one.
We'll write that one down. So the last question, it's kind of coming back to what you were saying, Lauren, about kind of politicizing it. I mean, do you think industry and countries and governments are doing enough to set the stage for this kind of, you know, for cellular agriculture? You know, is it going to just come as a shock for people in 3 years? It's just on the shelf and people have no idea what it is? Or do you think industry and people should be doing more to sort of, you know, kind of pave the way? What do you think?
You want to go first?
Yeah, actually the thought that popped into my head was like, or like aliens. How like how it was like aliens aren't real, and then over the last year it's like all of these things, it's like we're normalizing this is obviously gonna happen. I think that popular culture can certainly pave the way into making crazy ideas acceptable for people, and then the more it's said as something that is happening rather than it is a, you know, a crazy thing that would never happen. Like, obviously this is just an alternative, you know, it's just like butter, it's like margarine instead of butter, it's like vertical farming instead of farming in soil. It's just introducing an idea into society, and how that's done through PR. So whether that's the government's responsibility, I would say that having a kind of a stamp of this is okay is going to be important from the government. Saying that it's approved by a government body is going to be important for having that just having, well, that stamp of approval to know that it's safe and that you can eat this, that it's not something that is going to harm you anyway. But I think the rest is down to PR, it's down to marketing, it's down to community, it's down to making this appealing, and also it's down to supermarket endorsement. So in the UK, if something you would pick up in Waitrose is perhaps in consumers' minds not something that you may pick up in, say, like Lidl, where I have bought ostrich burgers before. I mean, for like kangaroo and just strange things. I didn't actually end up trying them because it was too weird. But you wouldn't get that in Waitrose. So if you have supermarket backing for this alternative protein cultivated meat product, and you'd say yes, if Waitrose is selling it, if we're seeing it in Fortnum and Mason, of course this is what everyone's doing, it's fine, it's not a crazy idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that definitely funding is very important as well, to really help out these companies. Just well, funding, and also, you know, different know-how, different types of resources that can be just supplied to companies to really improve on these processes, and just, you know, improve on the technology, the R&D. And really, like I was saying before, that is so crucial, because without tackling the taste, convenience, affordability, and health, which also, you know, has to do with R&D, without those, I mean, you have no foundation. So that really needs to be tackled ASAP, or I mean, improved ASAP. So government funding is really important there. Legislation in many different countries. EU is very slow. I was very proud of the United States to give approval for cultivated meat. And yeah, we see tons of tons of countries in the world, such as Singapore, also South Korea. There's so much. Oh, China is investing tons into cultivated meat. And Israel, tons of technology going into cultivated meat. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of the government really getting on board. Oh, Saudi Arabia also investing tons in cultivated meat.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia with sort of Neom have just partnered up with Blue Nano.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I also wonder whether there's something more kind of fundamentally human about slaughtering meat. And I mean, I asked a friend of mine who is, I mean, he's a bit of a hippie, in fact, you know, but I asked him if I gave you two burgers, if I gave you the option of two burgers, one of them, you know, and both of them were exactly the same in texture, taste, look, you know, presentation, health benefits, everything. They were identical, but you knew that one of them had come from a cultivated meat source and the other one had come from a slaughtered animal. Which one would you rather have? And he told me he'd rather have the slaughtered one than have the cultivated one. And it's I don't think that's uncommon. And I, you know, from people I've spoken to, it's almost as if, you know, there's some sticking points, as if to say, look, I am human. We have evolved because we have killed and because we've killed animals over thousands of years, and I have the right to kill my food. And I wonder, you know, when you said, Siena, it's the difference between margarine and butter. I wonder whether it's more fundamental, it's more human nature to want to, it's kind of slaughtered or unslaughtered. If there's something
is it human nature or is it dude nature? That's the question. Is it like man eat food, man kill food, man bring food home? We are social. It is socially drilled into us, or has been, especially kind of my generation and older generations, not so much anymore, that to be a guy, to be male, to fit in within the male culturally constructed gender identity, you will eat meat, you will be out there providing for your family, you will be a breadwinner, you will pay, you know, the bills, you will take the girl out, and there are all these things, and whether they are good, I mean, I obviously do not think that this is a good way to kind of imprint ideas into people's minds. I think that some people will get a real enjoyment out of the idea of hunting and killing, you know, whether they're out there hunting, that sense of the chase, the sense that they've, you know, got some kind of dominance over kind of another creature. I think these are all kind of psychological ideas that would be interesting to unpick, but saying that it's fundamentally tied to our idea of being human to kill something, I would find that a very difficult, problematic, and worrying truth if it was discovered this was a truth. I don't think that it is. I think that it's socially constructed and potentially gender constructed.
Well, I agree. Yes. So finally, so Lauren, what do you think about that then? I mean,
if you were stranded in the wilderness and you're really hungry, I think we'd all be able to kill something. Just say, to be the devil's advocate. However, luckily, we have so much innovation and we live in very industrialized countries and very advanced countries that fortunately, that probably will never be our situation. So I think that part of it is like, I was just reading an article the other day about cultivated meat, saying how, you know, meat has tons of benefits and nutrients, and it's a great source of a lot of again, nutrients, but that doesn't mean that it can't be improved or replaced. Like, it just happened to evolve that way. So I think that, you know, we happen to evolve a certain way, and yeah, we used to have to kill animals to eat them because we didn't have further innovation, you know. But now that we have further innovation, okay, we can leave some things behind. I don't think I've ever used a typewriter. I mean, I can write still, you know, but it's just it's not necessary. Luckily, I mean, thankfully, or
Yeah.
not thankfully, I mean, okay, it might be cool to learn how to use a typewriter, but the point being is that I think that that it's just a matter of, again, convenience, and just yeah, luckily we have so much innovation, and luckily, you know, things will start getting phased out. I mean, personally, I love horses. I like riding horses, but I don't need to ride a horse to get around.
Yeah.
If
So
I had to, I would.
yeah, so I mean, I guess in regard to this, I mean, it seems to me that perhaps this food tech innovation perhaps will change human behavior, so that in 30, 40 years, 50 years from now, we might look back and think, you know, think we were mad to you know, to do what we do for meat, you know, and how cruel we were. And, you know, we'd kind of look back in the same way as how we used to you know, kind of knock holes in people's skulls when they had a headache, you know, to let all the evil spirits out, you know, back in, you know, it might be in some way similar.
I was going
I
to
mean,
go with
how
wear
natural,
corsets, but but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
natural is it to eat like ultra processed Oreos? Or, I mean, I love Oreos, don't get me wrong, but I mean, like, if you want to go with the whole natural debate, I mean, there's so many things we do that aren't natural. So I think, yeah, it just has to, it boils down to convenience and necessity, and just if it's a turnkey, easy option that satisfies a lot of different requirements.
And certainly factory farming isn't very natural, is it?
It's not, and it's, I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty gross.
Yes.
If you really need to think about where your meat comes from and what it's gone through, even just the cleanliness, and you know, all of the different environments that that animal has had to go through, it's not appetizing. You'd rather have something that you know was in a controlled environment.
Yes.
Totally.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both, Sienna and Lauren.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed talking to you both. It's I think it's been very educational and enlightening. And I thank you both for coming on the Future of Foods podcasts. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
Most
Thank
certainly.
you.
Thank you, guys.